So, hi everyone. So I'm Francois Scharf. I'm CEO of the Data Chefs, and I'm very glad to be here. Thank you, Arthur, for the invitation and setting up this great event. And today I will keep the discussion on agricultural digital twin with a catchy title, From Farm to Table. So first, a few words about the Data Chefs and the partners on this project. So we are a boutique consultancy specialized in data management. My background is in semantic technologies, knowledge graphs. I have a PhD in ontology engineering, and the Data Chefs is a group of experts in those technologies. We're based in New York City, but with a representative mostly in the US, East and West Coast. And we provide a range of services in different industries, such as finance, legal, or technology. The project that we're going to present here is a collaboration between RBC that is hosting, thank you, Ontotext with Peyo, LZArt, which is a French startup, and the Data Chefs. But it's also a lot of the work that we show here is based on foundational work from the University of Montpellier in France, where I am an associated professor. And one of LZArt PhD student is also doing his PhD at the University of Montpellier. So there's quite a strong connection there. So what are we going to discuss today? The project we're presenting is based on Flamel, and it's an attempt to industrialize Flamel and go further by asking how can we deploy that in a real scenario. We're going to look at the context, and a lot of these topics have been discussed here. We're going to give our own focus on it. So farms in a rapidly evolving global landscape. What are the problems related to that? The various heterogeneous data sources. We've seen there's a lot of data potentially can be included and help by being integrated together. And another aspect, maybe less discussed today, is how to get data from farms. We're going to look at the solution that we propose, the architecture based on the knowledge graph, again, and an application in the hands of farmers. We're going to demonstrate that system and finish with conclusion and a few questions. So farms in a rapidly evolving global landscape, I think this is a topic we've seen. So I'm based in New York City. There are over 33,000 farms in New York State. There are more the smaller kind of farms, family farms. Over 2 million farms in the US. So that's to give the size of the business. We're discussing our own idea of it. There are two main aspects here. We have an economical aspect. Crops valuation can fluctuate, and this is related to macroeconomical factors that are not necessarily evident, that are not necessarily directly accessible to the farmers. How to think about what they plant in their farms based on macroeconomic parameters. And likely in a global changing factor that they have a hard time to control or even action based on is climate change, right? So the crops need to be adapted to the ever-changing climate. And what I'm saying crops, but it's the whole farm that need to be adapted, right? With different techniques, different material, etc. And so farmers, they're busy running their farms, right? Their job is to run the farm. They're busy enough with that. And when you telling, we should use data in order to analyze, you should use data, be more data-centric. analyze the data from your farm in order to make decisions. This is hard, and often it requires investing in systems that are expensive, right? But even, they're used to invest in expensive material, but it also requires new skills, and it requires spending a lot of time with the systems in order to gather the data, to integrate the data, etc. And data integration at scale is hard. This is a pretty well-known fact. So there are solutions, right? Agricultural twin solutions, but they're often too complex to deploy at individual farms, especially if they're on the smaller size, right? And yeah, traditionally, if I may say a few words around this, right? The farmers have worked through generations, and they have accumulated knowledge about how to run their farms over these generations. The fact is that now there are sudden changes where adaptation needs to be very quick, and that doesn't leave time for farmers to adapt to these very quickly evolving factors that we've seen earlier. On the other hand, we have stakeholders, right? We have government agencies, we have investors, such as RBC, and we've heard about what RBC is doing for their community and their clients, and how they try to help them with decision making, supporting where to invest, etc. And similar, government agencies want to get access to precise farming data in order to do their policy job, right? Like devise helpful policies for farms. And this also has to do with food security, for example, making sure that there's diversity of crops that are grown over a region, et cetera, et cetera. So we have these two aspects where the data is there in the farm, and it would be helpful for the farmer to analyze it. On one hand, it's hard to do it, combined with the fact that maybe it's not enough to have data from one farm, but a regional aggregation of data would be more useful. And on the other hand, we have stakeholders that also would benefit from having these aggregations of data from farms. So an agricultural digital twin is a solution. It integrates data from the farm and combines that data with various data sources, as we've seen earlier in previous presentations as well, may it be climate data, economical data, satellite data, and so on and so forth. Our solution here is to use a knowledge graph to integrate all these data sources. But that also is combined with a tool that we put in the hands of the farmers that help the farmer manage their farm. And by doing that, also collect the data in order to integrate it in the knowledge graph. So the farmer's activities directly plugs into the knowledge graph. In order to give you an overview of the system we're using the Flamel ontology that was presented earlier. This is the base, the core, together with the C3PO ontology, which is specialized on crop planning and production processes. So this is the actual ontology that backs the farm application. And other ontologies that were mentioned earlier, such as the soil properties, GeoSparkle, or time ontologies. There are a lot of data sources that we can include in this knowledge graph. We have seen many data sources presented in previous presentations, and I mentioned some microeconomical USDA, FAO data, local weather data, satellite imagery, scientific data from crops, right? How these crops adapts, the variants, the cultivars, the length of roots that will help get the water more deeply in the soil in case of a drought, geological survey that will give you the chemical structure of the soil, et cetera, et cetera. Check time quickly. Okay. So let me now present the system architecture. So as we've seen, we're starting from the farm. We put an app in the hands of the farmers in order to help them manage the farm and gather data while doing that. Now, we do this over a number of farms, let's say over a specific region. We aggregate that data in a knowledge graph that also integrates other data sources, such as satellite data, imagery, and analytics, climate data, and scientific data, to name a few. Now, all this data is part of a knowledge graph that includes, that is then now stored in a knowledge graph platform that provides a reasoning engine. And we're partnering here with OntoText GraphDB in order to provide these capabilities, such as spatial reasoning and other type of logic reasonings that Peyo has gone over extensively in the previous presentation. And by doing that, we're able to do recommendations and analytics over the data. So the data goes bottom up from the farm to the knowledge graph, is analyzed, combined with other data sources. And then recommendations can be then pushed down back to the app that the farmer uses in order to give recommendations on what crops, what to invest in, etc. Likewise, this analysis can be used by stakeholders such as governments and investors in order to guide their decision making or help the farmers. So we've given a technical solution here to this problem of helping farmers and stakeholders making better decisions. I want to stress that a lot of this is a social problem, right? A lot of the success of an agricultural digital twin is really to enable the farmers to report the data, right? So we have to build a tool that is useful to the farmer. This is a very important thing. It's always good to design, great technical architectures and build innovative projects, etc. But if the end user, the one that are really, dealing with that technology every day, do not have a proper incentive to use it, and when I say proper incentive, obviously it has to help them every day, right? Every minute that they spend on reporting that data, because that's what is needed here, has to be useful to them. So that's what we focus on here, on a tool that is useful, helps them with planning, harvest, crop management, budgeting and finance, vendors, etc. And so by doing that, they also inform on the status of their crops, how long it goes from seeding to harvest, etc., etc. So that data collection basically becomes a byproduct of the farmer's activity on the tool. So I think I've been talking a lot now. Let's go on a demo on this tool. I will demonstrate both the tool and then show the backend through the GraphDB knowledge graph database from OntoText. Sorry about that. All right, so this is the tool interface developed by Elze Yard. So we have here a representation of our farm on the map. This is an example farm. This is Soulac-sur-Mer. This is on the Atlantic Ocean coast in France, pretty close to Bordeaux. A very nice spot for summer vacation. I really recommend it. So we have a farm here with different fields and several plots on each of these fields. So if we take a specific plot here, this is We have information about the cultivated area, and we see what are the current crops that are in this area. So we have peas, we have some lettuce, and some arugula. So we can look at one, and if we see, so that's the farmer view, right? That's what the farmer does every day. They manage their farm, and they can indicate, what is the status, and they get information, how many days to harvest, what are the tasks they have for the day, what is the status of that, when will that specific crop be done, how much, what's the quantity of the outcome product they will be able to harvest, and when, so they can plan with vendors. They can plan when to get fertilizers, they can order fertilizers, they can put it, so they can basically manage their whole production process. Anything else I want to demo here? So we have basically just, I don't want to spend too much time on the demo, but we have a whole app, and I can tell more, maybe a few words, but this is a software that is actually commercialized and provided to farmers as a SaaS product, right? Behind all the data that is generated using this interface is actually based on a set of ontology. I mentioned C3PO, the crop management and production ontology, and is feeding a knowledge graph. So we're going to switch to see that knowledge graph. So we're here in GraphDB, and so here this is the backend that shows here it's centralized on one crop, which is broccoli, and we have a graph that we can navigate in order to get information about the broccoli. So harvest information for that type of crop, and what sort of farming practices are associated with that crop. This one is. We have the context of the soil for that specific crop and the climate context for that specific crop. So you see how we can connect. So it's oceanic climate, right? So that crop works in certain condition, and it has specific attributes such as a root length. It needs an amount of water, etc., etc. And we can combine that with so we can here link climate information, weather, irrigation information. We can link to economical data that represents how how much that crop trades for on a specific market, etc., etc., in order to provide recommendations. And as you see, this information is not there yet, and I'm going to switch back to the presentation. So what we have built here is the infrastructure in order to support a number of scenarios, right? Based on this system, we can put that app in the hands of the farmers. We have all the wiring into the knowledge graph. Now, depending on the scenario, we can plug different data sources to that, and then design different front-end interface for recommendation, dashboarding, etc. Some example: crops and surfaces usage, season over season for the farmer, irrigation systems and material investment that will also be for the farmer, land usage and crop recommendation for climate adaptation that can also be for the policymaker. We can add here some food security aspects by aggregating farms data over a specific region. Land and farm investment performance, right? So that would be for an investor, how much my set of farms perform. Do I want to diversify my portfolio in order to include more this, more that? Do I want to give recommendations to farmers to diversify into a certain area or not? So this is what our system enables. Nope. So wrong button. So what next? We have here a proof of concept, and we're now looking to deploy a pilot at scale over a region with multiple farms. We're hoping to continue the collaboration with RBC on this and expand it according to that plan, as we're looking for institutional partnership with access to farms and funding. I think RBC would be perfect for that. So if you're a private equity investor, VC, or government agency and you want to support us, please reach out. Thank you for being here, and I'm taking questions.
Thanks so much, Francois. That was great. Very, very interesting. It's nice to see the Flamel, that sort of Flamel squared, right? That's the big brother of it. That's great. I'm looking for questions. I don't see any questions in the list here. Oh, questions are starting to emerge. Excellent. So Yen has got a question. Future crop planting, you can probably read it, but future crop planning for next year is critical for farmers, a lot of it depending on weather. How does your tool provide a recommendation?
Yes, so that's exactly the type of recommendation we can do with that tool, right? We analyze, and it's important that there's multiple farms are managed and used to provide the recommendations. One, we know that statistics work at scale. So by aggregating data over a period of time about how certain crops perform on certain farms, having access to parameters such as the exact precise soil chemistry for the plot on which that crop was farmed, combined with what fertilizers did each farmer use on that particular plot related to that crop, right? So we're going very fine grain into our understanding of the context of the crop growing. We have historical climate data, and we have then models that can project what is the likely evolution of the climate over the next year. By combining this data, we can easily build a machine learning model that will give a recommendation on using that crop, or maybe using another type of crop, or maybe using another cultivar, right? That is another genetic variant from that crop that maybe has longer roots, because it will have to go deeper in order to get access to water, right? So that's how fine grain it goes. It goes not only for, say broccoli, but a very specific variety of broccoli that would be more adapted. And we know that each variety also has a cost. So how to optimize this at best? So this is what this system allows to do. By we had the presentation of Dr. Gruningen earlier, right? Having an ontology that is being able to represent the data at a very fine grain, allowed to do some reasoning and to really identify these, recommendation based on very fine grain parameters. So very precise in the identification of the context and make these recommendations.
Thanks for that, Francois. We seem to have an appetite for going back to the demo, and I'm not sure if this is appropriate for you, but Maver is asking to see how that recommendation appears on the tool, and it looks as somebody else is asking.
Right. So the tool is an app for the farmer, and so the recommendation can appear on various ways, as it depends, right? If we're on the farmer side, if we're on the investor side. This is a project that is ongoing. As Archer mentioned, Flamel was worked over the past year. The LZR app, the farmers app, was also developed over the past few years. We've been doing integration work over the past month. Right, so this is something that is already, it's still evolving how exactly we're going to bring that representation to the farmer.
Yeah,
I'm seeing another question. How long does it take to develop such a solution, and what's the price included? Yes, so the application, the farmer application, was developed for the past 4 years. Flamel was developed for about a year, I think. And Archer, you can correct me. We're now ready for a deployment. We envision that it would take a matter. It depends on the scenario, exact scenario, how much, different types of recommendations do we want to provide, et cetera, et cetera. But we're thinking a 3 to 6 months for a pilot deployment would be enough. The Farmers app is running in the cloud, so it's just using any tablet or laptop will be fine from the farmer point of view.
Actually, I was going to ask on behalf of Jeanette, is there anybody from quote unquote government in the audience? If you are, and you're willing to speak up, Jeanette is suggesting that these various streams may be of interest to government officials. And while we're waiting for that, maybe Francois, you can tackle the data origins question.
Yes, so there are various geospatial data source. Here we use Mapbox. We can use OpenStreetMap data in order for the map representation, and then governments also, local governments also provide good data sources that to integrate.
Yeah, that's true. I can add to that, because with Flamel we discovered sources of data out of the government, out of the Canadian government. Some of them were not so good, but some of them were truly exceptional. Like the soil survey of Canada is the detailed soil survey is very impressive and very detailed. So yes, you have to explore. I think Philippe is the right answer there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was sorry, just a quick comment from Jeanette here. As we were doing the Flamel exploration, climatedata.ca, a government provides a lot of data. Not every bit of it is the highest quality or accuracy, but climatedata.ca is a very good site to look at, because it also teaches, if you was interested in climate data in particular, there are lots of references in there, kind of as a starting point as well, with a lot of geospatial and temporal content.
Yep, sounds good. And we would love to be talking to the Canadian government if you guys have some contacts. I think one aspect I haven't discussed a lot is, and I think you, Archer, may have mentioned the carbon sequestration in farms, right? So all aspects related to climate change. How can we also optimize farms? How can we push government policies on these topics in order to, ensure that farmers pollute less, or maybe it's not the right terminology that I'm using, but minimize the amount of methane or carbon that they're putting into the air, right? And that's also something that is linked to the kind of fertilizers they're using, the kind of crops, maybe some crops are better than others. So I think having a link between farms and governments through some app that is useful to them is also a way to help day to day with changing things for